The following is a production of Notch 6 Media.
It's the Notch 6 online podcast, episode 37. On tonight's episode, Al Colas and I reflect on what it means to use the hobby of toy trains to give back to the community. We get a recap of the day's events, including some very special moments with a few folks from the Make-A-Wish Foundation in Indianapolis. You'll hear that story. Also tonight, Lionel's very own Mike Reagan, head of production. We'll talk about the Vision Line Big Boy, the Service Center move to North Carolina, other items on the 2014 production schedule, and so much more. It's a very insightful, news-packed episode of Notch 6, and it's straight ahead.
This is the Notch 6 online podcast. Notch 6 is the podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. Whether you're collecting, operating, or just getting started, Notch 6 is your home for O-gauge news, events, and interviews. Now here is your host, Derek Thomas.
Well, welcome to night 4 of the Notch 6 online radio show or podcast, depending on which version you prefer. Back again with Al Colas from the Lionel Collectors Club of America, my favorite sidekick in the world, and the only person who I will ever call a sidekick on this show. Al, did you have a good day today?
We had a fantastic day, Derek. Thanks for asking. It was a hectic day, and again, I think the lack of sleep is just starting to creep in a little bit. But we are definitely having fun. So we had a busy day. We had a couple tours, one a little bit on the cultural side. We had an Indiana Memorial tour. People were able to see the USS Indianapolis Memorial, the Indiana War Memorial. Again, it was a tour around the city, great excursion. Then we also had another train excursion. We are trains, toy trains, NASCAR, planes, trains, and automobiles. It's a consistent theme. We had a whitewater railroad experience where members were able to take a train excursion on the White Valley Railroad from Connorsville to Metamora, and followed by a canal barge trip. So it was definitely a highlight of the week tour-wise. Very successful day. This evening, we got a lot of activities planned for junior members. We have a movie night. Vince Colas, my son, is the junior membership coordinator. So that's a fun activity for the kids. Everybody comes to the first LCCA convention. This evening, we're hosting a first-timer party, and the idea is to introduce the first-time attendees to the LCCA board, welcome them, and just remember that we are all first-timers at one point in time. So that's what it's all about. We like to welcome them, invite them, and again, just be inclusive. That's what we're all about. We have some interesting seminars tonight. We have Lionel being featured. Mike Phillips is going to be giving a talk, as well as Mike Reagan. And we also have a tree-making clinic. So people that come in are going to be able to make some trees, and they're actually going to take them home. So they make the trees, and but they don't inhale. We have a great surprise tonight. Jadon Reese worked for Lionel for 35 years this week. So we're going to surprise him with a cake to celebrate his anniversary of his employment with Lionel. That's something we're very proud to be part of. It's just amazing that our relationship with Lionel. They come to the convention, they support us. The members just eat it up. They just love it, talking to the representatives. Lionel has a great big team here, and they're just giving people the Lion Chief remote controllers, the Lion Chief Plus engines, and they're just loving the magic of Lionel trains.
Absolutely. And I tell you what other industry has a convention like this where an outside club can get up close and personal, really with the management of the company? I mean, that's what makes these conventions so special. And to backtrack a little bit, the other thing that I love about the LCCA is with a club like the LCCA, even though you may be a first-time convention attendee, when you walk into a room with these folks, you guys already know you have something in common because you're there because of your love of toy trains, and it makes it really easy to break the ice with folks. I've done it multiple times at York with you over at Smoky Bones Restaurant. You can go pick any booth in the restaurant and sit down and just start talking to somebody, and you've got an instant connection. And I think as much as the LCCA is about the trains, it's really about the social aspect too.
Oh, sure. The fellowship and the camaraderie is just incredible. Derek, I forgot to mention that to me the highlight of the day. We had a special morning. We had LCCA Day in Indianapolis. We had the deputy mayor come in, and he issued a proclamation declaring it LCCA Day. And then the highlight of the day was we had 2 children from the local Make-A-Wish Foundation and their families there. We had Tyler and Jacob were the honorary engineers for the day at the Lionel layout. And what was incredible was when they had their the line chief remote controls in their hand, and their faces just lit up when they were running the trains. And we also were able to give them their first Lionel toy train set. And Lionel has been generous. They're a big supporter of us. And we gave the families a train set. And Jacob was sitting on it. It was just so cute. We almost lost him once he got the train sets. He was just so glued to that train set. He was so excited, and that's what makes it also worthwhile for me personally. Is you definitely receive more than you give. You feel so good inside when the Lionel trains provides a connection to a child, and it's just a great experience for them. It's a lifelong memory for them, hopefully. So that was the highlight for me personally. It's just incredible.
That's really neat, and I just love that. It's neat to hear you talk about it because it's very clear how passionate you are about the aspect of using this hobby to give back. And sometimes, and this is me just being very candid, sometimes this is a very self-absorbed hobby, or it has the potential to be. It's all about my layout, my trains. But if people look around and look for those opportunities to give, the feeling really is, it's amazing. And I think what we did this morning is a testament to that.
Absolutely.
That there's a lot we can do in the outside world to give back. And when you're giving back using something that you care so much about, like so many of us do with toy trains, it makes the giving that much easier and that much more fun.
It's so worthwhile. That's what I love about this hobby. I have the philosophy that there's no wrong way to enjoy your trains. If you're an operator, a collector, S-gauge, standard gauge, post-war, road names, whatever it is, your layout, it's a personal expression of yourself. Go out, enjoy it, play with them, build things, use your imagination, use it for good within the community. That's to me, that's what's so wonderful about this hobby, and that's our purpose, is to go out and to promote the hobby. It's something that it's so worthwhile and beneficial. There's so many benefits for the hobby, and I just want to be able to go out and share them and invite all the people out there who may not be familiar with their trains. It's a hobby that I think is growing. You see so many people at the World's Greatest Hobby and tour shows. The kids have an interest in trains, and so we have a responsibility to develop that interest. Get that first Lionel starter set. Have them encourage the kids to make a tunnel from cut out of a shoebox, or make a farm using empty oatmeal containers. Just using your imagination. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You just play with them. That's why I like toy trains today, is because I played with them as a child. And now it's just time for us to put something back into the system. And that's something I'm very proud of the LCCA for doing. LCCA President Dennis DeVito and the board is committed to the junior membership program and all these wonderful activities that we do. So it's definitely, to me, a very enjoyable aspect of the hobby.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. To me, it's still so amazing that something so simple can make people so happy. And you and I see it a lot when we're out at World's Greatest Hobby on tour. Just the simple joy of a train running around a loop of track, and the imagination that can invoke out of a child is just, To me, it's amazing. And, a lot of us spend probably more time than we should worrying about the state of the hobby, where we've been, where we're going. And when you cut all of that away and strip it down to the fact that these are still just toys, if you can peel back those layers, I think it makes the hobby so much better to be a part of.
Derek, I would love to if somebody did a study on, what the effect of running trains on your blood pressure. To me, it's very relaxing. If I have a bad day at the office, I go down into my train room and I just disappear into another world. I feel like a kid again. And there was a gentleman that walked up. He wasn't with our convention, and he goes, "What? I recognize that smell. It just brought back my childhood." And as you know, the sense of smell is a very strong sense. And there's something distinctive about the Lionel smoke fluid. The smell of the ozone of the engines running. It's very, very soothing and calming. So it connects the adults back to their childhood that grew up with trains and have gone away from it. So it's incredible. It's incredible.
I tell you what, I think that's a good place to leave it for tonight, because I don't want to crowd the message of what we're saying here, because I think what you and I are talking about tonight is incredibly important, and I hope some of our listeners take that to heart, that if you can find ways to get back within your community using your hobby, take the opportunity to do it. You won't regret it.
This is Notch 6, your first source for breaking news and in-depth interviews in the world of O-Gauge.
Welcome back to the Notch 6 online podcast. This is the part of the week that I always get excited about. This is the point where we start catching up with our friends from Lionel. And the first one, Mike Reagan, welcome back to the program. Glad to have you back again.
Derek, thanks for having the gall to get me back on.
Well, after the Christmas special and the Mike Reagan Christmas story, how could I not have you back? I mean, it's a natural choice. And like I said, you... all kidding aside, you always bring us some great information, and I tell you what, I time and time again when I go out to shows and I see you there, you don't have a free minute, because you are the person that a lot of people go to for answers, and so it just seems logical that we bring you back on the show and kind of catch up on what's going on in the world of Lionel production, and see what's new, what's not, and maybe provide some insight for our listeners for what's happened in 2014 so far. So let's kick this off with probably one of the hottest topics. We broke the news last fall at York about the Vision Line Big Boy. We rolled into the spring. We took orders, and it's my understanding that pre-orders on this engine were very successful. Is that true?
Yeah, numbers were really good. We were very pleased with the number of orders we got on the Vision Line Big Boy.
Very good. And you just came back from a month-long stint in China. And tell me, what are some of your primary objectives when you take long trips like that?
Pretty much the biggest part of those trips is just sitting down and working with the guys at the factories, both the Lionel employees that are there, as well as the factory staff, just strengthening the relationship, talking about schedules, when we want things produced, delivered. Fortunately, we've not had many quality issues to deal with, so fortunately that wasn't a hot topic per se. It was more about schedules, making the delivery dates that we've promised to the customers, and making sure that there's no projects that are stalled. With the sheer number of products that we produce in a year, it's very easy for things to stall out. I'll give you a great example: the American Flyer Rail Sounds boxcars, for instance. This is the first time we're making a Rail Sounds boxcar for Flyer. And one of the requirements is a Hall effect sensor. You've got to have something to tell the sound system that the car is moving, so that the steam rail sounds chuff and the diesel rail sounds rev up and rev down accordingly. And one of the challenges with the American Flyer truck is there's such little space between the side frames on a Flyer truck as opposed to, say, a three-rail truck. We actually had to mount the Hall effect sensor at an angle to the axle magnet. Well, we kind of went into it thinking, well, there's no reason this shouldn't work, so let's go down that path, because quite frankly, there was no other alternative. But we had never really thoroughly confirmed that it worked. So the guys at the factory had a rail sounds board. They plugged it all in. Well, here it turns out the software on the rail sounds board that they received, it used the track voltage to rev up and rev down. So as you applied voltage to it, the RPMs would go up. Took voltage away, the RPMs would come down. Well, that's great, except it doesn't test the Hall effect sensor. So, that particular project, I hiked back to the States with me and programmed the correct rail sounds board, plugged it in, and confirmed that, the concept of mounting a Hall effect sensor on an angle with the axle magnet does in fact work, and it chuffs and revs up properly. But, that project has been stalled out for 3 months because the guys at the factory had a rail sounds board, and they're like, well, we think it works, but we're really not sure. And so, having us on site at the factory to work hand in hand with those guys and see the samples they're working on really allowed us to say, well, could have had this thing delivered by September. Now we're looking at November to get it out because it got stalled. But with everything else going on, it just kind of fell through the cracks.
Right. And I think what a lot of people fail to understand is a lot of your time among the dozens of other projects you guys have and is spread out between your project management team. These are what you guys spend your days, solving, are problems like these. That's a pretty fair assumption, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot of people say, well, you guys are really lucky. You get paid to play with toy trains all day long. And well, I'll be honest with you, Derek, I would sure love to find that job. I spend my days answering emails and communicating with the factories and communicating with my project management team and the project managers that work with me, and we're solving more problems than we're playing with trains. Solving simple things from small mechanical inconsistencies to reviewing first shots out of a tool, making sure the product runs, going through products with a fine-tooth comb, putting it on the track. Unfortunately, what we're doing with that product on the track isn't necessarily playing. It's making sure that it pulls the expected, has the expected drawbar pull. It pulls the string of cars up the grade smoothly and down the grade smoothly, and it smokes, and every function of the command functionality works. All the railroad speed steps and all 200 speed steps, and it really is a job, more so than an opportunity to play with trains all day. But if we don't do that, then the potential or the possibility for a problem when the product finally ships and hits the marketplace is so much higher. So I'd like to say we play with trains all day, but we look at a lot of trains on paper too.
Absolutely, and let's use that tangent to skew off for a second into something I think that's really interesting that you guys are doing. The technology of how trains are built is changing at a pretty rapid pace, as it is in a lot of manufacturing. One of the new things that we're seeing a lot of, especially from you guys in the past few months, are these samples that are coming off of basically 3D printing. How is that changing the way your team does its work?
It doesn't so much change the way that we do our work. The workload is pretty much the same, but where it really does come into play is it helps us financially. I'll give you an example. Before we started dabbling with 3D printed models, we would have a design that we do in Pro E or SolidWorks or whatever engineering program you choose. And we look at it and we measure parts out electronically, and that's all well and good. And it really is a great tool because we can rotate the product around, strip parts off, look at them as individual files, etc. It's good. But let's say that we approve that design. Just, up to 2 years ago, we approved that design and we say, okay, go ahead and cut the tools. So we spend a pretty substantial amount of money, and we wait 3 to 5 months for those tools to get shot. And then they do the first shots and they send them over. We review them, and, oh, you know what, this doesn't line up, or this really isn't in a good spot because we're going to have wires routing through here, whatever. Then we'd have to go back to the vendor, tweak the tools, another round of first shots. And this would go back and forth 3, 4, 5 times, you know, as many times as it takes to get the structural components on the locomotive or the part correct. Well, 3D printed model, you know, I can spend a few $100s and save myself and really the company 5, 6, 7, 8 months of toiling with tooling back and forth. And, you know, I can have a 3D printed model within a week of saying I want it. Boom, I go make it, or, you know, I go have it made. We bring it in, we review it. We can actually part of the big boy. You know, you'd asked about the Vision Line Big Boy. We did a 3D printed model of the whole locomotive. Well, I should say we did a 3D printed model of the entire boiler and the tender. And we, you know, the mechanical parts, the die-cast parts on the drivers and whatnot, all of that was die-cast. But everything else was 3D printed out of photoresin. And we had our engineering guys go and actually mount all the circuitry and the various heat sinks and tubing and wires and the whole package, put it inside the big boy. And what that taught us was, you know, hey, this thing needs to be 30 thousandths of an inch more so that we've got clearance for this, that, the other thing. You know, it really allows us to deliver that big boy on time because we were able to get all of those tweaks made in the design before they actually went and cut the tool. So really, at the end of the day, it saves us not only time, but it also saves us a great deal of money as well. You know, those customers that were at York in April, we had a 3D printed model of the Heavy Mikado boiler at the show. You know, another case in point. Went and had that thing printed, verified that all the mounting holes lined up, the smoke unit fit, everything, drive line, motor, receiver, smoke unit, everything fit inside, boiler tools cut, we're ready to go.
Very nice, very nice. And obviously, you know, one of the most important questions that we try to answer on the show is what's in it for me, and that being the end user. Obviously, you guys spend a lot of time working to get these products right. And that's why it's such a great experience for the end user. And boy, I wish we could find a way to convey the amount of work that the product management team puts into these models, because, you know, Mike and I talk on a semi-regular basis, and if you guys knew the work that would go into these things, you would shake each one of their hands, because there is a lot of work and there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes.
Let me also throw this out there too. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just, you know, myself and my group of project managers. I mean, there's the engineering department that does a lot of work on, you know, smoke units, for instance, measuring the temperature variables inside smoke units, making sure the correct volume of smoke comes out. A lot of that is set by code. There's the staff in China, and we got a great team of guys in China that, you know, live there 9-10 months out of the year, you know, that are in the factories every day, working with the guys in the factory, assembling samples, doing production runs on each test station, making sure things are tested and assembled correctly and they operate to our specification. You know, there's a lot more to it than just a few project managers. There's a lot of guys behind the scenes that, you know, would show up at a train show. You guys wouldn't know them from Adam because they're not out in the spotlight by any stretch. You know,
right. It takes an army. It takes an army, and we don't want to leave anybody out because, you know, and that's very true. There are for each one of the Lionel employees that a lot of our listeners know by face, whether it's Mike, whether it's Howard, whether it's the marketing team, I would guess there's a, you know, at least 5-10 employees for each one of those guys that you know that you would never meet, never see, and they're working just as hard as the rest of the team to turn out a product that you guys will love the first time you put it on your layout. So next time you see everybody at the shows, make sure you thank them and save the complaints until after you give them a thank you. And I'll get off my soapbox on that note. Let's. The question on everybody's mind with this big boy engine is, and it sounds like it, are you guys going to hit your delivery date?
Well, we're throwing a lot of resources at this big boy. The goal is, now, it could be December 31st, but yes, we have every intention of meeting the deadline, the deadline for shipping. We've got the consigned components lined up, ready to go. Tooling's ready to go. We're in the final tweaks of software, getting the depleting coal load material correct so that it can be repeated over and over again and reliable. Every indication at this point right now is yes, we will hit the delivery date of December for the big boy. Yes, some may start showing up in late November, and then the balance of them should be out in December.
Very cool. And just as a general overview, how is, and like I said, we don't have to talk specifics, but overall, how is the health of the rest of the 2014 line in terms of hitting delivery dates? Are you guys, in terms of a percentage, you guys think you're going to be 80% there, 90% there? What does it look like?
Honestly, it looks to be about 90%, maybe 92%. Some of the aluminum cars are presenting some challenges that we're trying to work through, but locomotive-wise, freight car-wise, train set-wise, we're in really good shape. I mean, even Christmas cars, we should have 98% of every holiday-themed Christmas item in stock by October 1st, ready to ship out to dealers. Train sets even earlier than that. So, kind of the mantra for 14 is we have it in stock and we're ready to go. I know in the past there's been some issues with holiday cars arriving after Thanksgiving. Sometimes even some items arriving after Christmas. That's gone. We finally worked through those issues. We've got the items on the schedule. Everything, all of our ducks are in a row, ready to deliver holiday items on time. Train sets, Lion Chief Plus diesels. Pretty much everything is good to go. Even the high-end sets, the Penske M1A coal set and the SD70 Mac high cube set with the new scale on the train device, ready to go. That'll be out by end of November. Everything's in good shape. We're looking pretty solid. Like I said, really our only struggle is aluminum cars right now. And, to that point, the California Zephyr cars will be out. I think those are coming beginning middle of September. Those will be out in the market. And then those N&W Pocahontas sets that are sold out, those will be out in December. With the N&WJ and the 4 cars, those will be out in December. So to clean it up some of that backlog of product. So we're in good shape.
Point being, you guys are on track to hit your dates, and that's really great to hear. Something else that I thought was really cool that I want to talk with you about real quick and have you explain a little bit more. The new Batman set that the prototype is on display at the LCCA convention. One of the cool things I found out talking with the marketing team the other night is if you get up close to the set, the deco on this set from 5 feet away is just amazing. But when you get up close to the set, there's a trick to the set how the deco is done. Explain what you guys are doing with the decoration on that set and how that kind of helps the process.
Well, the traditional method for putting that set together would be a series of tampo plates, where you pad print all of those different colors. We had to go kind of a different route on the Batman set. We actually used decals on there. And what's really slick about it is you can't tell that it's a decal versus a pad print. The advancements that they've had on decal or transfers in China is really amazing. And, I actually encourage anyone who isn't aware of this set or, isn't really dying to buy one, gets out and takes a look at it. it's really quite amazing what they've done with these decals. And that's really the trick to it. Is it's a decal versus pad printing. Doesn't make it any less reliable. The deco is really solid. There's a couple shots of clear coat on it to protect it. It's not any more sensitive than a pad printed or painted piece, and it looks really good. Personally, I'm not a big Batman fan, but this set as a whole looks fantastic. Even the add-on cars look even better than the set. Really the 5-car train, really good looking set. I think anybody out there who is a Batman fan or can appreciate good deco, I think they'll really like that set.
Yeah, it's a really slick set, and like I said, if you can get out to a show that Lionel's at, I'm going to guess it'll be there at Fall York. Get up close to these cars and get a good hard look at them, because the deco on the set, I would venture to guess this is probably the most, in terms of graphically, this is probably the most complex deco I won't say process, but this is probably the most complex deco that Lionel has ever done on a piece in terms of just the level of graphics on the set, and it's really cool. Get a chance to check it out, and these decals, what they've done with this is pretty amazing. A couple more questions before we let you go. Obviously, one of your goals when we talked at the end of last year was to get ahead. You guys have a pretty good idea of where you're going for 15 so far?
Yeah, 15 we've already started working on. We're pretty much have that set in stone. The goal right now is really 15 C2 and starting into 16. So we're starting to get ahead of the game, more so than we really ever have been. It's a long, arduous, painful process, but we're getting there slowly but surely. So hopefully by the middle of 15, we'll be in a position where we're planning 17. So we're in pretty good shape there.
Very cool. I'm going to pull at that a little bit, because you said 15C2. Now, does that mean for 15 we're going to see a Volume 1 and a return of a Volume 2 catalog as well?
Yeah, same as you are in 14. In 2014, we put all the locomotives for the year in C1, starting the new build-to-order program. In 14C2, you're not going to see anything in there. The goal is we want the consumers to pre-order so that we can build the order, build the quantity that they order. So we don't put a gluttony of product in the marketplace. So in order to facilitate that learning process, there's nothing showing up in 14C2 that's going to make anyone say, oh, you know what, I'm going to cancel that engine and get this one instead. There'll be some things in there, but no road locomotives, no switcher locomotives, no big high-end legacy locomotives whatsoever in C2. And then 15C1, right now the game plan is to get that on the streets right around February 1st.
Cool.
And then, yes, there will be a 15C2. And again, same mantra at this point in the planning phase is, a lot of locomotives in C1 and not so much in C2.
I know we can't talk too much about it yet, but is there anything planned for 15C1 that's absolutely going to blow everybody's doors off?
Yeah, wouldn't it be super if I could tell you that?
Well, I now notice I'm not asking specifics.
Yeah, notice I'm not answering either. That's for the marketing guys. That's the marketing guys' horn to blow, not mine. So I'm gonna refrain from answering that question.
I'm going to say there's probably a safe bet, knowing the Lionel team, that there is an ace up the sleeve. That I tell you what, you guys have big shoulders to climb up on after what you guys have pulled off in 2014. But if there's a team that's up to the challenge, I think it's this team. And we'll harass the marketing guys a little bit.
Hey, Derek, let me throw one more thing in there before you cut me loose.
Sure.
Customer service is now in Concord, North Carolina.
Yes, that is important.
As of Monday, July 21st, service is open back up for service stations. The following Monday, which I believe is the 28th, service will be open for just dealers that aren't service stations. And then August 1st, customer service goes open again to the public. So repairs and parts and all of that stuff will start flowing again. And Phil and the guys over in customer service have done a really good job of getting the entire operation out of Ohio, getting it down to North Carolina, set up, ready to run. And, we apologize for the service interruption, but we also thank you for your patience, and hopefully it'll be, somewhat of a seamless transition other than the 2.5 months we were shut down for the move. But up and running, ready to go, and, ready to start fixing some trains again.
Very cool. And now you've brought 2 more questions to my mind. Number 1, are we going to see a customer service open house this year?
This year, no, you won't. We would run those customer service open houses in August up in Ohio, and unfortunately, if we were to run those in August in North Carolina, we would have a lot of people melted into our parking lot. It is oppressively hot in North Carolina in August, so probably not going to happen this year. Hopefully, once we get really truly settled in and get everybody transitioned down here and everybody gets comfortable, we can look at having an open house sometime in 2015.
Very cool. And the other thing, how does it feel to be back under the same roof as Phil? It's like old times all over again.
Well, it's kind of the same roof, except he's across the street in a separate building. So while we're in the same square, I don't know, half mile, quarter mile, whatever you want to say, we're in the same square footage, and I can see him when I walk out in the parking lot, and he can see me when he walks out in his parking lot. Not necessarily the same roof, but the dynamic's still there.
Close enough that it counts. Mike, hey, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you being honest and open with our listeners. I think it helps dispel a lot of rumors and misnomers in the hobby, and we'll have some more news later this week about some production things that everybody's going to look forward to hearing, and we'll get that news to you on Friday or Saturday. But Mike, hey, thanks so much for the time. It's always great to hear from you.
No problem, Derek. Thanks very much for the time.
Thanks for listening to Notch 6, the only podcast dedicated to O-gauge trains. You can find every episode on our website, notch6.com, or on iTunes and Stitcher. We'll see you again soon. Until then, be sure to keep it in Notch 6. The following has been a production of Notch 6 Media and is intended for private use only. This show may not be copied or redistributed without express written consent. This show copyright 2014, all rights reserved.